How's it going, everybody? I'm Jeff Slakey here, continuing these great conversations about the RECOMPETE Act. Again, a primer on this. President Biden signed the CHIPS and Science Act earlier in the year, and this was part of it. It's an opportunity for different distressed rural communities across the country to apply for funds that will help put them in a better landscape moving forward as we work towards getting out of the pandemic and looking to help revitalize some of these rural communities. We've already talked about ways to involve our partners like the Port of Shelton and PUD3 when it comes to reinvesting in the infrastructure, but a major export in Mason County, unfortunately, is our youth, and that is kind of where we're at here today to talk about this in an effort to explain to our parents and kids in our community that there will be and there are paths to sustainable profitable careers here in the community. From the EDC, Jennifer Baria is here. Matt Mallery is the superintendent of the Merriam Night Schools. Allison Smith is with Olympic College, and Wyeth Jessee is the superintendent of the Shelton School District. Good to see all of you here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jeff.
This is an important topic, and again, we've been talking about this in kind of the broader sense of the application has been filed. Now we're just going to kind of wait and see how Mason County stacks up with the rest of the communities across the country. But when we talk about this and children, unfortunately being one of the biggest exports in the county, this is and could be a great way to keep kids around and show them pathways moving forward. And I like that we have K through 12, we have higher education, we have the EDC here as well. So first, Wyeth, Matt, talk to me a little bit about what you know in your school districts about after graduation, where the kids are going, and what are some of the things that you guys have started to look at on ways to keep them here?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. Typically, kids fall into three categories. One category is kids have a pathway, they're going to higher education, whether that's a 2 or 4 year school, and they've got a connection one way or the other. They've already applied, they've been accepted. When they go across the stage, they announce it and they're off and running. Then we have some kids that have some plans and they're usually connected to industry somehow. And those can be very detailed. Hey, I'm headed over to Bremerton. I'm going to work for the Department of Defense, right? I got that, or I'm working for my business owned or local business, or my uncle or my mom, and following footsteps. And then we have the last part, which is they don't have a plan. We call those the kids that are going to sit there on the couch, unfortunately, and they don't have a plan. If you literally go up and talk to them, I do not have a plan, and they are about ready to graduate. And so I think for us in an economically distressed area, we have to figure out a plan that addresses all three populations if we are going to move this economy here for Mason County and really create all the opportunities we need for industry to not only further prosper, but new industry, new innovation that really helps us change it dramatically, and I think we can do that.
And Matt, you're way out there too and kind of straddle two counties.
Correct.
When you deal with this as well.
Yeah, ours is very similar to Shelton, kind of those three buckets. Ours is probably more in that second bucket where we do have a group of kids that go on to, or maybe in Running Start right now, or looking to go to a 2 or 4 year college when they graduate. But we do have that percentage of kids that do want to go to work, but don't really have a clear path of where they want to go. And so with us, adding into that are being somewhat remote, it's 17 miles to Shelton or to Grays Harbor, is that linkages to business where our kids, we can have a contact for those kids that are interested in this industry or this occupation, where they can go and get a job shadow so they can get a real experience of what that looks like. The second step that we're interested in is getting kids placed in maybe internships, either paid or unpaid internships over the summer, getting them into some industry or occupation where they can have a plan to move forward, at least starting sophomore, junior year, but also have that connection with that business. We have made some inroads in that out there, and that we made some contacts with some industry trades who've come out and made presentations. The limitation with us is travel. If we do workplace learning, which is part of our grant, is having some of those linkages, it's getting kids from Merriam Knight to the location for the job training experience and back. And so you got to add that in, opposed to Shelton, where kids maybe could walk a mile or two for that experience. Our kids, we got to figure out how to get them from point A to point B for that. I think we've developed, much like Shelton, a pretty strong career technical education program to get those kids that experience in school and that career exploration. It's the next step to get them out into the work field so they can experience what that is like. You have a lot of kids, some kids say, I'm going to go work for a warehouse, I'm going to go be a welder, I'm going to be a carpenter. Well, we can give you some of that experience at school, but you need to go out and see what that is like in the field, what those people do during the day, what a week looks like, what a month looks like. So that's really the linkages we're trying to explore with this grant, is getting those kids into those businesses that are willing, those businesses, taking them through that experience of what it's like to be employed with them, not only the job but the benefits, but what additional training they can offer. And so really broadening their horizons. That's really part of what we're interested in.
And when it comes to this RECOMPETE Act and some of the dollars that could potentially come back to the county, some of the age range in there is 25 to 54 is where we're looking at kind of a loss of employment in that age range. And after high school and before you're 25, that kind of fits in with what's going on at Olympic College. So Allison, tell me a little bit about what you two are working at with this act and the application and what you've shown, the paperwork and the feds, how Olympic College deals with all this.
So Olympic College is, the Shelton campus is going to be focusing on the trades. We currently have a very popular welding program that is working to train to our local employers. We plan to relaunch our construction trades program, and the president really wants to focus on trades down here. So this would be an opportunity for us to really have a kickoff of that and offer more programs. We are planning to launch a zero credit CDL program, hopefully starting this January. And so we'll be looking at other programs and what would best suit our community. Part of the role of the community college is to provide resources to our community. So working with our business partners to find out how we can train the employees that they need is where we're going to. But yes, we're really hoping that that this would give us the kickstart to be able to launch this new program.
And Jennifer, talk to me a little bit about how when you interact with the schools in Mason County, I know there's a lot of work on the school district side to make sure what they're teaching is industry applicable, is what's happening now. It's not, 10 years ago technologies that they're learning for today's students. So when you're out talking with the businesses in the county and trying to think of different partnerships, how do you talk with them that the schools are up to date and they are teaching the current things that they're working on?
I think that's part of where this funding really fits in. It's place-based funding, so it allows us to be able to develop the programs that we need for our area. What's going to work in Grays Harbor is not necessarily what Mason County needs. So really looking at our local businesses, not just even keeping it to them, but at our recruiting businesses. What types of businesses are we bringing in? What skill sets are needed? And how can we start training those or certifying those at a younger age so that they, by the time they enter that workforce, they're further along than they would have just entry level. And then at that point, what kinds of certifications, education do they need in order to continue to move up in that career pathway? So the focus of RECOMPETE really isn't let's get jobs. That's a big one, but it's what are the job opportunities? How can that person who's entering the workforce or who's been in the workforce and it's just stopped, they haven't been able to move forward, what kind of tools do we have developed here that they can access and start to continue to move on, which opens up those entry-level jobs for people that are coming right out of high school to get the kind of experience that they need in order to be able to move forward. So I'm really excited about it. Being able to essentially tell, it's the Economic Development Administration who it's from, is asking us to tell them what do we need those federal dollars for, and to be able to say, you know, we don't need it for this, but workforce development being a huge bucket that really needs to be invested in, where do we use that?
As you two, as superintendents, have the opportunity maybe to talk to the higher ups in Olympia when it comes to work-based learning or adjusting requirements here and there, what is it able to do when you're here on the the ground floor, saying, if we were able to get our kids to have a CDL certification when they graduate, or some other type of certification that's not necessarily in the traditional education pathways, how confident are you that there can be changes coming from OSPI or the state or the legislature that they're going to be as quick to make these changes as the school districts have to teach what's happening currently?
I think right now the climate, I think they're pretty interested in making those quick changes. There are some CDL you bring up, some of those rules go outdate all of us in the room, and so making those systemic changes to, instead of have to be 21 to have your CDL, moving it back, that's going to take a lot more discussion about that, because there's some concern about CDL, but that is an avenue for kids to go down. I know with our CTE program, we look at certification within those programs, so kids, when they are completed with that sequence of high school courses, they have a certificate of completion that they can take and utilize that as part of their job application. I think with OSPI, with their career technical ed, they are always looking at readjusting their frameworks, because that's what we have to write our courses for, so we can meet those frameworks, so they can have a sequence of courses to meet that industry need. The other part of it is, being a small enough school district, when we have work done out there, which is quite a bit the last couple of years, meeting and talking directly with our contractors, there is a real need out there in those industries. We, working with our local electrician, they are desperately looking for entry-level workers to come in and become apprentices. Those are paid positions. And so even the owner of the business will sponsor them to go take their tests and then move from residential to commercial. And so they make an investment in that. We have HVAC technicians come out. Their business is always looking for technicians, because they start to becoming my age or more, and they're looking for the future to grow their business. They need to have those replacements. I don't know if anybody's tried to get a plumber, but really that business, there is many, many people. And within this area, you look at so many other businesses that are looking to the future. I mean, when we look at the heavy machinery or excavation, well pump management, septic tank design in this area is huge, because there's only one city that has a municipal water system, and so beyond that, everyone else has to have that. So it's not only is it running machinery, but it's a whole design improvement, working with coding officers. So it's really quite an interesting thing. When we had our construction project out this summer, working with paving crews, I mean, it goes from the design, project management, permitting, to the actual construction, where people are running equipment for that 2 or 3 or 4 week period, and then the wrap up of it. So it's not just holding a shovel and digging a ditch. It's really, there's quite a range of occupations and jobs within those construction industries, and they are looking for talented young people to come in and start working with them, so they can grow them throughout that program. So
you guys have had these same kind of conversations in the Shelton School District too.
Yeah, and I think just really, Matt was doing a great job of listing out several technical things that we got to wrestle with. And I think the big picture here is a couple things. One, this grant is really about living wage jobs, because we can do service-based work. That doesn't take much skill or certification for that, if any. We're talking about things that anywhere from a CDL, literally, as far as like just how much they get paid, any kind of truck driver or bus driver, upwards, and so you got to think of that as the floor and what we're trying to do. And I think where it doesn't catch up right now, just thinking about what we're trying to do and what this grant can do for a place like Mason County, is to say, hey, all right, so we need to connect K-12 to higher ed and to businesses, and that is not where it's at. Matt and I, our two districts see eye to eye. I think we're ahead of the curve. I wouldn't call us necessarily way out there and innovative, because there is the thing that is about funding. We're asking for truly career college counselors to help these kids, like I was saying, in these three buckets, move and connect. It's like passing the baton off to industry. It's industry coming back and talking to us to what they need. It's coming back to higher ed and OC says, hey, if you walk up to these courses, we'll take them and move this next step. We need to be able to pivot a lot more in that. We're just not, frankly, funded, or there's this necessarily, we've had this opportunity to talk between, again, industry, higher ed, and K-12 to have these people literally working, because these kind of kids need the hand-holding. It's not as simple as take your courses and you think you're gonna land it. I tell a lot of parents, I go, they might look big, but they're really young and they need a lot of guidance. And when you talk about guidance, you're talking about ratios of like, I can take a caseload of 35, 40 kids, and you talk about a high school of 1,500, how are we walking them intentionally into the next thing to be successful so that they stay here in Mason County, they get really high paying jobs, we attract other industry, and we create our own industry. But the only way to do that, this grant could actually help us lift way off. I think we're definitely ready for it. We just need it, because that is the piece that's missing.
It is a great opportunity for Mason County. The paperwork has been submitted, probably won't be until the first parts of next year when we start to hear more coming out from the feds on that one. But it is important to know that the principals here in Mason County, the EDC, the school districts, county government as well, all working on this same pathway forward to help Mason County get a leg up in these distressed communities. And we've seen the need here in Mason County, of course. And as we said at the beginning, one of the biggest exports right now are the youth. And with some of these opportunities in the schools moving up, maybe put a stop to that. Jennifer, Matt, Allison, Wyeth, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right.